Hey there, everybody. I felt super inspired to pop on today and talk about this topic because it comes up so much with my clients and in my coaching sessions. And it's a really big juncture to be able to navigate well. If I think back to my early days of dating, the way that I made a decision and how I went about kind of what I was considering in that decision and how I do it today is entirely different. So if you're popping on, please say hello so I know who's here. Just put a little note in the comments. Hey, Angie, hi. For those of you who are new to me, my name is Lisa Rose. I'm a love and dating coach. I'm the founder of Deeper Love, Better Sex. And I help successful singles give up the struggle with dating so you get really good at dating so your dates naturally lead to love. So there's no right or wrong here, but I want to kind of walk you through some of the things that I hope you will be considering as you are getting to know somebody that will inform your decision to whether you want to go to bed with them, be sexual with them, keep them as a friend, ultimately in a way that feels really good to you. I don't have any judgment about your decision, but I want it to feel good to you. So when I'm dating somebody, there's either chemistry or there's not. I'm one of those people that for me, chemistry is either there from the beginning or it's not. Chemistry doesn't necessarily mean we're going to be good lovers, and it does not necessarily mean we are going to be good as romantic partners or even, like anything other than, it just means that there's chemistry in the beginning. That's really all that it means. It's also a very, very compelling force because we are biologically wired to follow that chemistry. So part of what we want to start to integrate is this thing that we also have called our rational decision-making mind, that is based in facts and data, along with very strong primal urges. So if you are at a point, I'm just going to walk you through what I do, and then I'll take some questions if you have them. When I feel drawn to somebody, if you're just popping on, feel free to say hello. When I feel drawn to somebody and we're at that juncture where we're both feeling like there's chemistry and there's interest, obviously you want to be having the safe sex conversation. And that alone is an intimacy and a trust building conversation. It's not something most of us are taught to do. It's a conversation you really want to get good at so that it feels natural. You want to be talking about sexual history and STDs and birth control and all that. So you definitely want to be covering that. And there are ways to have that conversation that can be light and playful, but also really cover all of the bases. Equally important to that is I recommend to my clients that you have an emotional safety conversation. And what that basically means is you're talking about what is it going to mean to me if we are lovers? What are the emotional implications? What are my expectations? What am I going to make this mean if we go down that road together? And this is really where you're checking out, are we on the same page? Or am I setting myself up to have an expectation and then find out that we're actually on entirely different pages, maybe even in different countries about this? So the way that you would do that is you would just, first acknowledge, like, it seems like we're going down this road. We've had the safe sex conversation. I'd also like to know what it would mean for you. And you want to really listen to what they say. Like if he or she says, yeah, I'm really just kind of interested in having some sexual encounters these days, or I find you really attractive, but I'm not looking to build a relationship, or I don't know what I want, and that's a time and a place to get really curious. Ask as many questions as you want to. If you are about to bed somebody, this is a good time to be asking questions. And then you also want to be sharing and including your truth about what it is that you're hoping it will mean. For me, for an example, something that's really important to me that I used to think people just did automatically. Some men do it automatically, some men don't. So I make a point of saying, as part of that conversation, if we have sex, I would really like it if you would check in with me tomorrow. You know, it can be a text, it can be a phone call. I mean, most men who are, you know, gentlemen, they do, you know, they send a really sweet text about, you know, what a nice evening it was, but not everybody actually does that. So as part of my own self-care, I mention that that's really important. And then I find out from him, is that something that you're used to doing, that you're comfortable doing? If he agrees to it and doesn't do it, which has actually hardly ever happened, that's more information about, you know, who he is and how he shows up. But I don't want to just make that assumption that he's going to know that that's what I want or that that's what feels good to me. So any questions about this? Is this making sense to you guys? So having that emotional safety, what is this going to mean to you? And that's also the time to be talking about some reservations or some considerations. It might be like, well, I notice that I feel really hot for you and really drawn to you, but I'm also noticing that there isn't a lot of emotional connection. So I'd like to maybe build on that first. Or I'm feeling really drawn to you, but I'm not sure we're on the same page about what we want in relationships. So then it's all kind of out in the open, and I get to make an informed decision. The other thing that I really want to speak to, because this is something I just love helping my clients kind of build into their relational toolkit, is I go much more slowly sexually than I used to do, because I have this area that I actually really enjoy that's kind of like an intermediary between not being physical at all and going straight to sex, which is having a really nice cuddle connection. There's a lot of intimacy in cuddling. You know, cuddling is, it's got so much of the same stuff without as much of the intensity. It's also a really nice way to find out about each other's body. You know, like, how do you fit dimensionally? And does the other person like really light touch or more strong touch? And in the course of cuddling, you can have the conversation about, tell me a few things about your body that I don't know yet. You know, like for me, I don't particularly like light touch. I like somebody who's going to get in there and like, I really like to be squeezed. I really like massage. Light touch can kind of drive me nuts. So that's something that I share from the get-go. And then it's a great time to give feedback. How does that feel? Anything that would feel better? Do you like this, right? It's a great way of laying down the tracks for how the communication goes, which is essential when or if you do take the next step into being lovers. So all of these things are like laying the foundation and the building blocks that are either going to help you discover, I don't think we're a good fit, either because the communication is a little wonky, or now that we've done this, I can see that there really isn't chemistry, or it's building the foundation that you get to then take with you into a sexual relationship. So many people just assume, and this because we're kind of taught this way, they just assume that because we're attracted to somebody, the sex is going to be great. And it does not work that way. It can, but it's not automatically. Oh, thank you, love. I love those. Thanks for joining. And so what we want to do is we want to care for ourselves and also lay down some foundations that are both emotionally intimacy building and also help us get those gears going for getting used to having a thriving love relationship. So let me just check my notes because I wrote a couple of things down. Oh, so when you're cuddling, we're not machines. And so if you get two bodies next to each other, especially if there's attraction, there's going to be arousal. That's just what happens. So then you want to have the conversation about, how do we want to meet this, right? Like for me, I think arousal is a great thing. Like, I'm totally down for celebrating the fact that as human beings, we feel desire and arousal feels amazing. Doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to act on that, or I'm going to choose to act on that just because I feel it, right? It's like if every single time I pass an ice cream store, I bought ice cream, I'd be more like a Pavlovian dog, right? Just sheerly out of habit. So that's a good thing to be having a conversation about, is what do we want to do? How do we want to meet this if this comes up, right? Rather than any degree of shame or feeling like, you can kind of be awkward, but you can't really get close to each other because then there might be arousal, and then what happens? Talk about it. Just talk about it. So I'm going to share with you a couple of examples from how I've been navigating this recently. So I was dating a man, and I wasn't super attracted to him physically from the beginning. And like I said earlier, that rarely comes online for me later if it's not there. But I also just noticed that I really liked who he was, who he is, and how we relate to each other. So we did some really nice cuddling and also got to know each other more, did some different things, hiked, movies, etc. And what I was discovering is that there was like zero sexual attraction for me, just like zero. And so, I don't think that I would have known that if I hadn't road tested it through the vehicle of cuddling and some massage exchange. And it just made really clear for me that, this is not a person I see as a potential candidate for romantic relationship, because chemistry definitely rates in my world. Okay, so that's number one. Another person I've been seeing is somebody I have a lot of chemistry with, and I also really like who he is, but it's more new. I don't know him that well. So we're both like really physical. We do massage. We really like cuddling. We really like the world of physical touch. And so we have made a couple of cuddle dates. He's a really good communicator, and we kind of have this agreement that we can just talk about any or all of it. What we want, what our desires are. And this is a thing I really want to spotlight. It's not like once you get into sharing physical exchange, you have duct tape over your mouth. You can continue to talk about what's coming up, to change your mind, to say, I thought I was going to want this, but now it's actually not feeling that good. Or can we change positions? Or can we slow down? Or I'm noticing I'm feeling really aroused. Like, you can just kind of let the conversation continue. That's also extremely trust building and intimacy building. I am a big advocate of cuddling for all of these reasons. I think it also just meets a lot of needs for physical touch and physical intimacy, and also emotional intimacy. Because a lot of times, thank you, love, that's nice. A lot of times when I'm laying next to a body and my nervous system starts to settle and I relax, like, I don't know that I'm feeling sad, but a lot of times, like, I'll just cry because there's feelings that start to come up. It's just kind of part of how my nervous system settles. And that's incredibly intimate. It's really emotionally intimate. And I enjoy exchanging that. And then it kind of get to see, how we are when another part of me comes up. So I have tons to say on this subject, but I feel like this is maybe long enough for this one. Wondering if there's any questions or comments. Of course, if you're popping on to watch the replay and you have a comment or a question, be sure and leave it. And if you just pop on, it's also nice if you say hello. I always like to know that you're here. Because this is such a big place where I see people getting into trouble, either moving into sex too quickly or just not knowing how to have the conversation to help them make an informed, consensual, rather than assumptions decisions. I really want to help you get good at this, and it's something that I normally only really cover with my private clients. But I've created this session where we can hop on the phone for 20 or 30 minutes. It's called Let's Talk About Sex. And if you're struggling with like how to navigate this, or if you find that you're making choices that then when you reflect on in hindsight don't feel to your highest good, or leave you feeling like you got a big surprise that you weren't expecting, or you thought one thing was going to be happening and then something else is happening, let's hop on the phone together, because I can give you some really tangible, concrete ways to work with this that are really more personalized than I can do in this live stream. And I can't tell you, every time I've had this conversation, people are like, I never thought of that. I didn't know that was possible. And then they go and they apply it, and instead of getting a big shock and a big heartache, they're like, we had this amazing conversation and I feel so much closer. Or we had this conversation, it helped me to see that we're not a good match. So I'm going to put the link. I've only got 2 of those slots because my schedule's pretty full right now, but I just feel this burn about I really want to make this easier for you. I'm going to put the link in the comments section, or you'll find it, and we can get on the phone for 20 or 30 minutes. It's a complimentary call. I want to help you get better at this. So if you're watching the replay, please say hello, and if any questions come up after this, come back and let me know. And I wish you all a super satisfying sex life. Bye.